She opened a bakery in her hometown. Then the mayor tried to shut her down. What they didn't expect? She was ready to fight back. Maya Johnson had carried a dream in her heart for as long as she could remember, to own her own bakery. She grew up watching her grandmother's hands work magic with flour and sugar, the warm kitchen filled with the scent of cinnamon and fresh bread. For Maya, baking wasn't just a skill. It was a legacy, a language of love and resilience passed down through generations. After years of perfecting her craft in the bustling kitchens of big cities, she finally decided it was time to return home. Cedarville, a small town nestled between rolling hills and dense woods, was where her roots lay, and where she wanted to plant new ones. Coming back was a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Cedarville's quaint charm hadn't changed. Painted storefronts lining Main Street, families strolling under canopy trees, and the distant church bell ringing on the hour. But beneath the surface, Maya could sense something more complicated, an unspoken tension lingering in the smiles and greetings. The town was friendly on the surface, but old attitudes clung to the shadows, like ivy on stone walls. The bakery she found was a small space on Main Street, once an antique shop gathering dust and memories. With every brushstroke of paint and every new oven installed, Maya poured her heart into turning it into a warm, welcoming place. The soft cream walls, the polished wooden shelves stacked with breads and pastries, the gleaming glass display cases. It was her vision taking shape. The aroma of baking bread soon drifted through the town streets, a fragrant promise of something new. Business started slow but steady. Early mornings brought a few regulars seeking fresh coffee and croissants. Children's laughter echoed during afternoon baking workshops Maya hosted, teaching the next generation to knead dough and roll cinnamon rolls. Her sweet potato pies and peach cobblers quickly earned a reputation, drawing weekend crowds eager for a taste of homemade comfort. Yet, with every success came a shadow. The mayor, Douglas Reed, was a fixture in Cedarville's political landscape, a man proud of his town's traditions and resistant to change. He wore his conservative values like armor, and Maya sensed his unease as her bakery gained popularity. The whispers began, murmurs that Maya was disrupting the peace, bringing unwelcome change, and shaking up the town's way of life. These words were rarely spoken directly, but they rippled through the community like an undercurrent. One afternoon, while arranging a fresh batch of baguettes, Maya noticed a man standing near the bakery entrance. He wasn't a customer. His gaze was too calculating, too deliberate. She recognized him from town meetings, a local official known for his loyalty to the mayor. His presence was a silent warning. The tension thickened when Maya overheard a conversation at the town hall. In hushed tones, officials referred to her bakery as a thorn in the side and a challenge to the town's values. The words stung more than she let on, but they steeled her resolve. Despite the subtle hostility, Maya continued to pour herself into her work and her community. She invited neighbors to community bread nights, where people shared stories over loaves of fresh bread and warm smiles. Slowly, she built bridges, one conversation, one pastry at a time. But the mayor's unease manifested in darker ways. Maya's mailbox one morning held an official letter from the town council. It cited vague health code violations and concerns regarding her business operations. The language was formal, but the intent was clear. Trouble was brewing. Puzzled, Maya requested an inspection. The visits became frequent and intrusive. Inspectors arrived unannounced, focusing on minor infractions other businesses overlooked. Once, a cracked tile in the restroom was deemed a serious violation. Another time, a missing label on an ingredient sparked a warning. Word spread, and customers began to hesitate. Some quietly avoided the bakery, wary of attracting unwanted attention or ostracization. Rumors circulated. Some townsfolk cautioned others against supporting Maya's business, claiming it was controversial or too different. The warmth Maya had cultivated felt threatened by invisible forces. In moments of solitude, Maya recalled her grandmother's comforting words. Dough rises, no matter how long it takes. Keep your faith, and the truth will come through. Her fight was no longer just about selling bread. It was about demanding dignity and fairness in a place that had long been silent on such issues. Every loaf baked, every customer served, became an act of resistance, a declaration that she belonged, that her dreams mattered, and that her town could be better. The letter from the town council was just the beginning. Maya sat at her kitchen table late into the night, the dim light casting long shadows over the stacks of paperwork in front of her. The letter was curt and clinical, citing vague health code violations and unspecified concerns regarding the bakery's operation. It wasn't the first time Maya had seen such language from bureaucrats, but this time it felt personal. Her mind replayed the past few weeks, the sudden increase in inspections, inspectors arriving without notice, lingering longer than necessary, and nitpicking every minor detail. The cracked tile in the restroom labeled a serious violation, the mismatched label on a container deemed non-compliance, and the health inspector's reluctance to offer any constructive advice. It was obvious the scrutiny was different, more intense, more hostile, than what any other local business endured. Maya's customers, once enthusiastic and loyal, now seemed hesitant. Some whispered to each other when they thought Maya wasn't listening. Others stopped coming altogether, swayed by the quiet social pressure and the mayor's thinly veiled warnings that the bakery was disrupting the town's harmony and challenging Cedarville's traditions. At the town hall, the mayor, Douglas Reed, made a public statement during a community event. His words were measured but unmistakably pointed. "We cherish our heritage here in Cedarville," he declared to the gathered crowd. "Businesses that align with our values and traditions are welcome to thrive. However, when new ventures cause division and discomfort among longtime residents, we must pause and reflect." Though he never mentioned Maya by name, everyone knew who he was talking about. Back at the bakery, Maya felt the sting of those words. It wasn't just about a business dispute anymore. It was about belonging, about identity, about who was deemed acceptable in her own hometown. Determined not to back down, Maya began documenting everything: copies of inspection reports, dates, and times of visits, notes from conversations with inspectors and officials. She noticed patterns. Certain inspectors consistently reported violations at her bakery that other businesses were never held accountable for. With the help of a trusted friend, she obtained recordings from town meetings where officials openly expressed frustration over her success. "She's changing the town too quickly," one councilman had said. "We can't let this stand." Maya's frustration gave way to resolve. She contacted a local civil rights organization that specialized in fighting discrimination and corruption. They connected her with a passionate young journalist named Sarah, who had recently moved to Cedarville and was eager to expose injustices in the community. Sarah's articles began shining a light on the unfair treatment Maya faced. She interviewed customers who felt pressured to avoid the bakery, town employees who hinted at political interference, and former officials who expressed regret over the mayor's tactics. Meanwhile, an unexpected ally emerged: Helen, a white woman who had served as mayor years ago and who privately regretted the town's resistant stance to change. She reached out to Maya, offering guidance and support. "This town needs you," Helen told her. "You're what Cedarville has been missing." The town became divided. Protests erupted outside the bakery, with some residents standing in solidarity with Maya, while others rallied behind the mayor. Threats and anonymous letters arrived, attempting to intimidate Maya into shutting down. At times, the pressure was overwhelming. Maya questioned whether the fight was worth it. But each time she stepped into her bakery, greeted a loyal customer, or saw a child's face light up at a baking class, she found renewed strength. Her struggle was no longer hers alone. It had become a symbol of resistance against long-standing prejudice and corruption. As the mayor doubled down on his efforts, pressuring landlords to raise rents, coaxing suppliers to reconsider contracts, Maya and her allies prepared for a confrontation that would determine the future of the bakery and the soul of Cedarville itself. The fight was far from over. The morning sun spilled over Cedarville's quiet streets, but the bakery on Main Street was anything but peaceful. Inside, Maya Johnson moved with purpose, organizing supplies, preparing dough, and managing staff. Yet beneath the hum of ovens and the clatter of utensils, an undercurrent of tension pulsed relentlessly. For weeks, Maya had endured the increasing pressure from town officials, the thinly veiled hostility from neighbors, and the unnerving uncertainty that each day might bring more obstacles. But today was different. Today she wasn't alone. In the back room of the bakery, a small group gathered around a table cluttered with papers, laptops, and half-drunk coffee mugs. Maya sat at the center, flanked by Sarah, the investigative journalist whose articles had begun to expose the town's deep-seated biases. Helen, the former mayor, whose quiet regret had transformed into fierce support. And David, a community organizer who had rallied local activists and residents to Maya's cause. "We have to be strategic," Sarah said, scrolling through documents on her laptop. "The public is starting to pay attention, but the mayor controls the narrative. He's painting you as the outsider disrupting the peace." Helen nodded. "Douglas Reed is stubborn, but he's also political. If we can present clear evidence of bias and corruption, the town council might be forced to act," David added. "We've already seen support grow. Last night's rally outside the bakery drew over 100 people. Signs, chants, stories of injustice. People are ready for change." Maya listened carefully, feeling the weight of their words and the hope they carried. It was time to fight back, not just for her bakery, but for the soul of Cedarville. Over the next few days, Maya's team gathered testimonies from residents who had faced discrimination, compiled a dossier of inspection reports showing inconsistencies, and collected records from town meetings revealing the mayor's campaign against her business. Every detail added fuel to their case. Meanwhile, the mayor wasn't idle. Reed increased pressure on suppliers, convincing some to reconsider contracts with the bakery. A landlord who had previously been supportive suddenly raised Maya's rent unexpectedly. Rumors circulated about potential lawsuits and new regulations targeting small businesses. But Maya refused to be intimidated. Her resolve hardened like the crust on her sourdough loaves. She began holding community meetings inside the bakery, inviting residents to share their experiences, learn about their rights, and organize support. One evening, during a packed meeting, an elderly black woman named Mrs. Jenkins stood up, her voice trembling but clear. "When I was a girl, this town didn't want people like us," she said. "But we stayed. We fought. And now Maya is fighting for all of us. I'm proud of her." The room erupted in applause. Maya felt tears sting her eyes. This was why she fought. Word spread quickly, and the town became divided. Some rallied behind the mayor, fearful of change and loyal to tradition. Others embraced Maya as a beacon of hope and progress. The mayor's camp launched a counter-campaign, spreading misinformation and attempting to discredit Maya's character. Yet the community's support only grew stronger, united by a desire for justice. The climax approached as the town council scheduled a public hearing to address the dispute over the bakery. Maya prepared meticulously, rehearsing her statements and gathering allies to attend. On the day of the hearing, the town hall overflowed with residents, some supportive, others skeptical. Cameras and reporters filled the room, amplifying the stakes. Maya stood before the council, her voice steady but passionate. "I am not just fighting for my bakery," she declared. I am fighting against a system that has long excluded people like me, that has wielded power to silence and erase. This isn't about regulations or codes. It's about fairness, dignity, and the future of Cedarville. She presented evidence of biased inspections, shared heartfelt testimonies, and exposed the mayor's tactics. The mayor defended his actions, claiming he was protecting the town's interests. But the mounting proof and community support left his arguments hollow. After hours of debate, the council voted. The decision was clear. The bakery would remain open, and a committee would be formed to investigate the mayor's conduct. As the meeting adjourned, cheers erupted. Maya was surrounded by friends, allies, and grateful neighbors. Her victory was not just a personal triumph. It was a beacon of change for Cedarville. But Maya knew this was just the beginning. The fight against prejudice and corruption would continue. Yet, with her bakery as a symbol of resilience and hope, she was ready. Her dream had become a movement, and Cedarville would never be the same. The day after the town council's decisive vote to keep Maya's bakery open dawned bright and clear. But the atmosphere in Cedarville was anything but peaceful. The sun illuminated the charming facades of Main Street. Yet beneath the surface, old wounds and fresh tensions simmered. For Maya Johnson, the victory was a hard-won milestone, a triumph not just for her business, but for dignity itself. Yet, she knew better than anyone that change did not come overnight, nor did it come without struggle. Her bakery, once a quiet dream, had become a beacon. Every loaf of bread baked was an act of defiance, every warm smile a testament to resilience. Word had spread far beyond Cedarville's borders. The town's story was beginning to inspire others, but not without drawing lines of division that cut through the community like a sharp knife. Inside the bakery, the air buzzed with hope and hard work. Regular customers returned in droves, some bringing friends, others stopping in just to show their support. Maya's signature peach cobbler and sweet potato pies were more popular than ever. But more than that, the bakery had become a gathering place. Community bread nights, which Maya had started months earlier, now filled the small space to bursting. People shared stories, dreams, and, most importantly, solidarity. But outside the warmth of the ovens, Cedarville's streets whispered a different tale. At the Rusty Spoon Cafe, a local hangout a block away, small groups of longtime residents gathered in shadowed corners, their voices low and wary. "It's like we don't know our own town anymore," muttered Mrs. Fletcher, a lifelong Cedarville resident. "Maya's bakery's doing well, sure. But what about the rest of us? What about tradition?" "Douglas Reed was our mayor for a reason," chimed in Mr. Thompson, his voice thick with nostalgia. "He kept this town steady, safe. This sudden change, it's unsettling." Yet, not all agreed. In another corner, younger voices countered. "This town needs to grow," said Jessica, a local teacher. "We can't cling to the past forever. Maya's fight is our fight." The mayor himself had retreated into political silence after the council's decision, but was far from defeated. His loyal supporters continued whisper campaigns, spreading rumors and stoking fears of change. Reed's influence, though diminished, still cast a long shadow over town politics. Maya understood this division all too well. She had seen the looks of hesitation and heard the murmurs that questioned her place here. But she also saw something more profound. A town at a crossroads, struggling to reconcile its past with its potential future. One chilly autumn evening, Maya invited the community to a special town hall, meeting held inside her bakery. The space was packed to capacity. Neighbors, activists, skeptics, and friends filled every seat and stood shoulder to shoulder, united by a desire to listen and be heard. The bakery's warm glow contrasted with the crisp night outside. Maya stood at the front, her heart steady despite the sea of faces. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "I know this town has been through a lot these past months. conflict, fear, hope, and pain. Change is never easy. It's uncomfortable, it's messy, and it's slow. But it's necessary. We're here not just to talk about a bakery, but about our community, who we are, and who we want to become. A hush fell over the room. She continued. We can't pretend that the past doesn't exist. We can't ignore the ways this town has excluded people based on skin color, background, or beliefs. But we can choose to build a future where everyone belongs. At that moment, a hand rose in the back. It was Mr. Harris, an older white man who had long been skeptical of Maya's presence in Cedarville. I want to say something, he said, his voice shaky but sincere. I've been resistant to this change. I was afraid of what it meant. But Maya's courage has made me rethink everything. This town is better with her here. We need more people like her, not less. Applause filled the room, a wave of relief and unity washing over the crowd. Yet, some faces remained doubtful. Change often leaves uncertainty in its wake. One woman, seated near the front, asked cautiously, "But what about those of us who feel lost in all this? Who aren't sure where we fit anymore?" Maya met her eyes. This is our town. We all have a place here. The work ahead is to make sure no one is left behind. That means listening, learning, and growing together. In the weeks that followed, small but meaningful changes began to ripple through Cedarville. The town council established a diversity and inclusion committee tasked with reviewing policies, improving transparency, and fostering community engagement. Local schools invited Maya and her allies to speak about justice, perseverance, and the power of community. The bakery itself became a hub for education and celebration, hosting workshops on baking, social justice discussions, and cultural events that brought people together. Yet, challenges remained. Some suppliers still hesitated, old prejudices lingered beneath polite smiles, and a few town leaders continued their quiet resistance. The mayor's supporters didn't disappear overnight. They watched and waited, biding their time. But with every loaf baked, every conversation sparked, Maya's influence grew stronger. The bakery wasn't just a business anymore. It was a symbol of hope and change, a place where differences could be celebrated rather than feared. One crisp morning, Maya stood by the window, watching the sun rise over Cedarville's rooftops. Her staff bustled around her, young and old, black and white, working side by side. She smiled softly. Her journey had been long and difficult, but it had led to this moment, a moment of possibility, healing, and hope. Her dream, once a solitary vision needed in silence and determination, had blossomed into a movement. Cedarville would never be the same. The bakery buzzed with quiet energy. But today, the hum of ovens and chatter was overshadowed by anticipation. Maya Johnson knew the upcoming town council meeting was more than a procedural formality. It was a crossroads that would define Cedarville's future and her place within it. For months, the town had simmered with tension. The victory to keep Maya's bakery open was a symbolic win, but old wounds and stubborn resistance remained. The mayor's supporters were still vocal, some seeking to roll back progress, others wary of what change might bring. But Maya was ready, not just for herself, but for the community she had helped awaken. The town council chamber was packed. Faces familiar and new filled the room. Residents, activists, business owners, journalists, and city officials. Cameras lined the back, capturing every moment. The weight of expectation pressed in from every corner. Maya entered with calm purpose. Her eyes scanned the crowd, landing on allies and skeptics alike. She had prepared carefully, knowing that facts alone wouldn't sway hearts, but truth, paired with courage, just might. The mayor, Douglas Reed, sat stiffly at the council's head, flanked by his loyalists. His expression was a mask of composed defiance, but subtle flickers of uncertainty betrayed him. When the meeting began, Reed opened with a statement defending his past actions, framing them as necessary to preserve community values. He questioned the legitimacy of the reforms Maya had championed and suggested they might harm Cedarville's identity. Maya listened quietly, then stood to speak. "My fellow residents," she began, her voice steady yet impassioned. "This town is more than traditions or politics. It is people. People who deserve respect, fairness, and opportunity." She recounted her journey, the passion behind her bakery, the obstacles faced, and the broader issues of systemic bias and exclusion. She presented data, testimonials, and evidence of the mayor's attempts to suppress not just her business, but voices like hers. Her words were met with a mix of applause, murmurs, and challenging questions. A council member asked, "How do you propose we unite a divided community?" Maya replied, "By listening, by creating spaces for dialogue, by ensuring policies reflect the diversity and needs of all residents. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it happens through commitment and empathy." As the hearing continued, members of the public voiced their support and concerns. Stories emerged of exclusion, hope, resistance, and the desire for progress. When the vote was called on the proposed reforms, a hush fell. The tally was unanimous in favor. The council agreed to implement the new diversity policies, establish oversight committees, and hold regular community forums. Importantly, they voted to launch an independent investigation into the mayor's conduct. The room erupted in applause. Maya's heart swelled, but she knew this victory was just one step. Outside, supporters gathered, chanting and cheering. Maya addressed the crowd, reminding them, "This is our town, our future. Let's build it together." In the following weeks, the investigation revealed abuses of power, conflicts of interest, and attempts to silence dissent. The mayor faced mounting pressure and eventually resigned, his influence waning. Maya continued to lead, not just as a business owner, but as a community organizer and advocate. She fostered partnerships, mentored young entrepreneurs, and worked to make Cedarville a place where everyone could thrive. The bakery remained a symbol of resilience, hope, and the power of one person to inspire change. Maya knew challenges lay ahead, but the foundation was stronger. The town had begun to heal, and with that healing came possibility. Standing in the bakery one evening, watching the sun set over Cedarville, Maya smiled. Her dream was no longer just hers. It belonged to the town, and together they were baking a new future. The bakery was quiet now. The golden glow of late afternoon sun filtered softly through the windows, casting warm stripes on the worn wooden floor. Outside, Cedarville's streets hummed with life. Cars rolling by, children playing, neighbors greeting each other as if the past months of turmoil had been a distant memory. Inside, Maya Johnson stood behind the counter, wiping flour from her hands. The rhythm of kneading dough and the scent of baking bread had returned, but the bakery was more than a place of business now. It was a sanctuary, a symbol of hope and resilience for a town that had nearly lost its way. The bell above the door chimed gently. Angela stepped in, holding 2 cups of tea. "You look tired," she said softly, placing a cup beside Maya. "I am," Maya admitted, taking a sip. "But tired in a good way." Angela smiled, then paused. "There's someone here to see you." Before Maya could ask, the door opened wider, and a man stepped in, older, with salt and pepper hair, and eyes that held a mixture of regret and respect. James Mallory, the man who, 20 years ago, had turned her away at a job interview, telling her she wasn't the right fit. Maya's heart beat faster, memories flooding back, but she didn't falter. "James," she said calmly. "You came." He nodded, stepping closer. "I wanted to apologize. I was wrong. I didn't see your worth then. I see it now." She regarded him for a long moment before replying, "It's not about what you saw. It's about what you're willing to see now." James looked down, then back up with determination. "I want to help, to learn, to be part of the change." Maya's lips curled into a small, genuine smile. "That's all anyone can ask." He extended his hand. She took it, not just as a gesture of reconciliation, but as a promise for the future. The door chimed again. Savannah, the receptionist from her hometown days, stepped in timidly. "Ms. Johnson," she began, "I wanted to say thank you for showing me what courage looks like." Maya reached out, taking Savannah's hand. "Thank you for having the courage to listen." The three stood together in the warm glow of the bakery, the place where dreams had been kneaded into reality, where battles had been fought with flour and fire, and where the doors had been opened wide for anyone willing to walk through. Maya looked out the window at the town that had challenged her and been changed by her. A town no longer divided but healing, learning to rise like the bread she baked every morning. Her phone buzzed. A message from Angela. "The community voted to name the new Inclusion Center after you. You've left a legacy that will feed this town's soul for generations." Maya set the phone down and looked back at the bustling bakery. This was more than victory. It was transformation. A future baked with hope, resilience, and the unshakable power of one woman who refused to be dismissed. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is open a door and invite everyone in. They tried to silence her, close her out, and push her away. But Maya Johnson didn't just open a bakery. She opened a movement and a town's heart.